MRF Challenge Championship Showdown for the local Indian categories. Of course, they carry on. Their season continues. They race not just here, but also at the KMS, the Car Motor Speedway in Coimbatore, and also at the Bud International Circuit. But the MRF Challenge itself is the headline event that concludes this weekend with a champion to be crowned. So pit lane light stays on red. And as soon as we can get the cars out on track, we'll be good to go. I'm not aware of any clearing up that needed to be done, so quite why the delay. The timetable running a little bit behind as well, because we had some clearing up to be done in the earlier MRF practice session. But drivers ready, and this free practice session an opportunity for them to get a bit of mileage under their belts. For some it might be a new experience on this circuit, and thinking his way around a lap there aboard number 32 is Anjan Patodia. It looks like he's dozed off, but I suspect this is all part of psyching himself up to get the optimum lap. So one or two staying in their little pit bunkers, others ready at the end of the pit lane. And we await the signal for this free practice session to get underway. Quite why the cars are being held is not immediately apparent, I have to confess, but it might be that there's a little bit of sweeping of the circuit still to be done. The previous session did have quite a few cars going off the road. This is how the circuit looks, with the pit straight being on the far right as you look at it, turn 1 into turn 2, and it's turn 2 that's been catching out people in the earlier single-seater sessions. Short straight to turn 3, and then you wriggle your way through the S's, keep on wriggling up towards the long right-hander at the top of the lap, and then the infield brings you back towards the final major corner, turn 12, onto the pit straight once more. Green lights on, green flag waved. These cars that aren't affected by wings, good old-fashioned single-seaters, without the aerodynamic aids, they deliver good close racing, and the session underway. Everybody being very respectful as they head out on the circuit, gingerly making their way up towards the turn 2, right-hander. 17 going through the shot. A late extra for this weekend. 39, Ritvik Thomas. And car number 8 there, Abdul Malik in the entry. Number 12 is Arya Singh, who we saw out early on in the Formula 1600s. And 21, Bala Prasaf, is the man at the head of the queue at the moment as they work their way down that long, fast straight through the infield. It's a remarkably gentle outlap, I've got to say. Nobody really pushing on too hard here. Slowly, slowly, slowly they get on with it. Number 10, Brushan Tareja. The good thing about this is that there are quite a few late entries, a few extras that have joined in. So we'll start to identify the full field as this session unfolds. Number 11 goes through the shot, which is Clinton Braganza. And so now, over the timing line and onto a flying lap they go. 32 it is, Anjan Patodia, who heads the cars through with Vishnu Rajikumar behind him, and still, look, they're pouring out of the pit lane, so it is going to be a busy circuit for the Formula FLGB 1300s. 155 that's just ventured out, Vinesh Chand. A bit late on parade, but finally he's come out. Yash Aradhya goes over the timing line, and we'll start to see how the order shapes itself at the end of the next lap, which is when we'll start to see proper flying lap times. .66 over the timing line, heading down towards us, which is Rupesh Siva Kumar, another of the drivers in the National Championship in the DTS racing car. Who, as he plays himself in, keeps way off the line. Pace starting to quicken, but you see again how dirty the circuit is offline, as a legacy of incidents earlier on in earlier sessions. 46 pressing on. That car, another one I think I'm right in saying, that's been late out of the pit lane. So not yet onto a flying lap, 46. Not yet even confirming an entry. So times will come. It's going to be the end of this next lap where we start to see what improvements drivers can offer against one another. The target time will be done by this man, Anjan Patodia, who goes over the line and, frustratingly, no time is offered up. So he has gone through, but the time isn't shown. Behind him on track is number 1, for whom no name is offered up. And a 2:07.9 is the time for Anjan Patodia. Manas Madan in number 6 goes second fastest. Arjun Shauri, number 11, is third. And now Sricharan V in number 29 is the quickest, because he's done a 2:06.247. I thought that was all going to end in strife for a moment, as 3 wide they arrived at turn 1. In the middle of which, number 3, Kamala Kanan, keeping out of the way. 21 and 29 getting themselves together. 29 is Sricharan V, 21 is Bala Prasaf. So a fight between them on the road. Fastest though now, number 25, Sri Venkata Tija, ahead of Jason Huggins, who has gone second fastest, number 4. And now to the top of the times, Sheikh Najib Ahmed, who has done a 1:58.619. So the times are being brought down. They're not the fastest cars around here, certainly in terms of the single-seaters on offer this weekend, but they are close, they are competitive, and they should give an entertaining brace of races, I would have thought. So it's a 30-minute session once more. Free practice, not to determine the grid. This is the second free practice session of the day for these cars. Sricharan V, we're looking at number 29, losing track position to 21, Bala Prasaf. Up towards the timing line has just gone Anjan Patodia, and he has now gone to the top of the times again. 1:56.191 is the best lap time, with number 39, Ritvik Thomas, up to second fastest now. So the order continues to shuffle, and an effort made on the inside to try and regain track position by Sricharan V, but it comes to naught. Very busy battle pack there, which includes in the midst of all of it number 17, Yash Aradhya. 25 through the shot as well. Now that's a quick car, 5th fastest, Sri Venkata Tija. Number 66 across the timing line is Rupesh Siva Kumar. And 46, Clinton Braganza goes through. 18 in strife. Gets out of the way of the quicker cars. Chetan Nagawara. But again, an evidence there of going offline, how much rubbish there is there. Lots of marbles, lots of grass being kicked up as he rejoins. So there's really one line. If you need to do any overtaking, you're going to find yourself on the marbles here, on the slippery part of the road, which is not good news at all. Manus Madan turns through in number 6. He's currently 14th fastest. We have got 20 cars shown in the entry for this. And number 32, Anjan Patodia, quicker again. He was fastest anyway, he's gone quicker still. He's into the 53s now, but actually only by 100th of a second, Anjan Patodia from Aya Singh. So Singh benefiting from lots of track knowledge here because he's doing 2 different races over the course of the weekend, and Aya Singh is 100th down on Anjan Patodia. He's doing the 1600s as well as these cars. 32, Anjan Patodia ignores the club circuit, sets off on the full international lap down to the bottom of the circuit. Off the road is 11 though, that is Ayun Showry. Gets going undaunted, regains the lost momentum. But that is not going to help this lap time. He will stay 9th fastest, unless even he gets dumped down the order by anybody else. And 0-3, which is Kamala Kanan, 18 fastest, just going out of the shot there. So we've done the first third of the session. And Ritwik Thomas pressing on in number 39, looking to try to improve from 3rd as he is at the moment. So Ritwik Thomas is the man you're looking at as he works his way up now through the infield. The time to beat is now 53.402. Anjan Patodia getting quicker and quicker. Aya Singh, as off the road goes Thomas. Oh, so nearly comes the crop up against the barrier, hand in the air to say, I'm rejoining. Is he going to go for the pit lane though? He's not. Has a look in one mirror, rather oblivious of the fact that Jason Huggins was diving down the inside to go to the pit lane, but Ritwik Thomas carries on very slowly after his moment, tries to make sure that all is well with the car, and eventually does get going up to a proper pace once again as he heads over the line. But that a rather slow lap, a legacy of his incident, and even more drama there, I'm afraid, with damage to the car for what looks like Aya Singh. It is, who has broken the suspension, and that's going to be a red, isn't it? Because that car is in a pretty awkward place. If anybody else runs wide, they're going to clobber it. And just looking to see, do we get a red flag? It's not there yet, but the race officials will have a look at this. So another driver in trouble is Yash Aradhya. You can see number 17, but big dramas for Aya Singh, the man that was 2nd fastest. So we've got cars littering the circuit now. Away goes 17, Yash Aradhya, and walking away, Aya Singh. Does the semaphore suggest that somebody else might have been involved in that with him? Ah, there's the answer. Yes, there was. Bala Prasath. And there has been a pretty serious misunderstanding of whose line it was. The red flag is now out. The discussion continues, but 2 badly damaged cars and a red flag, and 2 rather grumpy drivers to boot as well. So red flag flies, session stopped. So Bala Prasad is one of them, and Aya Singh is the other. We'll try and piece it together in a moment and try and work out who did what to which and to whom. You can see the damage, right? What caused it? Well, there is the aftermath as bits fly. They've already come to grief and interlock wheels by the look of it. So I suspect it all started a corner back, and one went for the inside and one went for the wrong line, but a misunderstanding about who was meant to be where, and the net result is that there are two rather badly damaged cars and need retrieval. Formula LGB, a series of single-seater open-wheel class race cars. These cars built by Super Speeds, a division of the LG Balakrishnan Brothers company, hence Formula LGB. They also make roll-on chains and sprockets, and the cars similar to Formula Fords in a sense, but a low-cost starter series with engines of 90 to 100 brake horsepower brought into this country back in 2003. And there was initially a Hyundai engine model and then a Suzuki Swift engine model. So as the drivers head back to the pit lane, the session for the moment is interrupted, and even though it's free practice, the clock does not carry on ticking. That's what has led to the delay earlier on. Normally when it's a free practice session, the clock carries on, but it's stopped for this red flag. In qualifying, it's stopped the clock, but in free practice, normally, it carries on ticking. Anyway, it has stopped for the moment. The damaged cars hoiked out of the way. And Anjan Patodia it is, who is the fastest then. There is Aya Singh's wreck. Now, they're not needed again today, but that doesn't really make life any easier for him. Gives the team a pretty busy night trying to repair that car for tomorrow's qualifying. So after a big wallop into the wall, lots of damage to both cars, I'm afraid to say. And that's one out of the way at least. Car strapped on tightly. And as soon as the other car, that of Bala Prasad, is out of harm's way, we should be able to get the session back and running again, he says confidently. But there is the recovery vehicle set to go and sort out Prasad's car. The trouble is, it's not only the cars you need to worry about, it's also what damage they've done to the barriers. So that, I think, will also need some attention before we get things underway. Down in the pit lane, everybody ready to go for the restart. Now, for what have they got left? 17.5 minutes. As I say, the clock has been stopped, even though it's free practice. The driver's queued up, ready to go back out, but it's going to be some time yet, I think, before the barrier has been repaired, and that car is out of harm's way. That is Bala Prasad's car being retrieved. So you can see the damage to his suspension, where the wheels interlocked with those of the rather grumpy Aya Singh. There's not a great deal left of Arya Singh's car now, but hopefully it'll look a lot better in the morning. He's also got more track activity to come later on when he's out in the MRF Formula 1600 free practice session. And Bala Prasad is also going to be missing for the remainder of this. You can see the damage done largely on the front left corner, but at least that was where it was car-to-car damage rather than then being speared into the barriers and doing any more damage to the car. So through the club circuit, the car is taken. And fingers crossed we can get the session back underway pretty shortly. Drivers now a little bit more sanguine about life rather than the initial heated discussions when they'd leapt out of the cars. But Anjan Patodia, for the moment, 0.8 of a second up on anybody else. And 17 minutes of the session still to run. Following it here at the Irangota Kotai circuit, we will have the Saloon practice session and then the 1600s and the 2 litres back out once more. 30-minute free practice sessions all day long. And drivers clambering back on board, including their Manas Madan, who is 10th fastest. Behind is number 29, you can see, which is Sricharan V, who is a long way down the order. He is to be found 14th. And we should be in business pretty shortly, I would have thought, looking at the starter's gantry just out of the window. They are poised with the flag, but not yet being given the signal to wave it. They need marshals to be back on post and recovery vehicles out of harm's way before the cars can be released, of course. But drivers being strapped on board, so that's a good sign. We're almost ready to go. Manas Madan is ready. He's the man that rounds out the top 10 at the moment. Just ahead of Arun Showry, who was a spinner before we got the red flag, and another spinner was Yash Aradia. He's 6th, number 17. So that's the pit lane view. The team's just about ready. The back of the pit lane at the moment suggesting that there's little activity, but fingers crossed everybody will venture out in a few minutes' time once the signal is given. Number 4 at the head of the queue, Jason Huggins. He had just gone for the pit lane before we had that red flag, so gave him a little bit more time to effect adjustments. Number 1 there as well is Prashanth K. He's got a lot of work to do because that car is to be found 19th. Green flag is waved, and it's Jason Huggins who leads them out ahead of Arun Showry. Number 10 in the mix as well is Bhushan Tarija, 7th fastest. Out they go. Out most of them go, he says rather optimistically. 29 is the one that lags back. Sricharan V, who needs a push to get going. And 32 being pushed away, so Anjan Patodia perhaps feeling he's done enough in this session. We're back and running, still not yet at the halfway point. The officials being quite generous by stopping the clock and giving the drivers as much track time as they can, even in free practice like this. 55 is the next one out, Vinesh Chand, 9th fastest before the stoppage. And 29 does not want to go, does it? It's been pushed all the way down the pit lane, but Sricharan V's car is having none of it. So that means engine cover off and see what can be done to breathe life into it. So as we saw before, it is a very, very gentle outlap here from everybody, all eating into the available time. Venkatesh Shreyas, number 14, just went through shot. He has yet to do a time, so also number 8, Abdul Malik. 17 though, pushing on straight away. Yash Aradia, perhaps underlining why he'd had a spin early on as well, because there's lots of commitment put into the way that car is driven. Now, in terms of times, 1:52.886 the time to beat. This the order. Anjan Patodia is yet to venture out. Indeed, the car driverless last time we saw, but that's the fastest one from Arya Singh, whose car is damaged, so we're not going to see much more of him. This gives Ritvik Thomas the chance, maybe, to get himself up to the top of the times here, ahead of Rupesh Siva Kumar. Sri Venkata Tija and then Yash Aradia to round out the top 6 at the moment. So outlap completed, flying lap started as through there goes Ayun Showry, Jason Huggins behind him. And over the timing line, number 18, which is the car of Chetan Nagawara. Behind in a big hurry is number 6, by the look of it, which is Manas Madam, up the inside of number 3 there to try and gain track position over Kamala Kanan, which he succeeds in so doing. In 0.5 is Vishnu Rajkumar. He's got a long way down the order as well, 16th. So now we'll start to see if there are any shuffles. Still, having not ventured out, Anjan Patodia. So Patodia, I think, feeling that he's achieved what he wants to out of the 2 sessions today. 66 through Rupesh Sivakumar, currently 4th fastest. There is Kumar, spinning it, coming out of turn 3, loops it right the way around, thankfully not struck by the traffic, but that was right ahead of Ritwik Thomas, who had a real brown trouser moment in avoidance of that. He's not the only one in strife, because 46, Clinton Braganza, has stopped coming out of turn 1. And that, by the look of it, is not going a whole lot further. And 66 also is stranded in the middle of the road. Is that going to be another stoppage to give him a push? Let's see. Here's the replay. Just a little bit too much speed carried through turn 3. Wheel hooked onto the curb. Round it goes. The official's giving him time to try and start the car up again, but let's see whether he has been able to do so. When we last saw it, the car was beached. It's still beached as well, I'm afraid. So big frustration this. The car is going nowhere. And the red flag is being prepared again and is being shown again. So that did not last long at all. 2 cars stranded again. Different incidents this time, but Clinton Braganza being one of them. And there, all it will take is a push start for Rupesh Sivakumar, but the man that was 4th fastest stranded, and obviously the car couldn't be left there, so that has to be pushed out of harm's way. And almost into harm's way as the traffic comes through. So the majority making their way down the pit road. And once the track is clear, we should be back in business. There's no barrier to repair this time. There are no cars that will be difficult to recover. It's just that Kumar's car will not restart. So he wants to turn it around. Has it fired up? Hopefully it has. But I'm not confident here. Marshall's doing their best. Members of the Madras Motorsports Club that own the circuit here at Irangota-Kotai. And there for another push is Rupesh Sivakumar. There's 46 being given a helping hand as well. That was Clinton Braganza's car down at turn 1, but that's going to need to be pushed down the pit road the wrong way, but at least it will get it off the track. So strange how cars are proving so reluctant to restart even after a harmless spin. But there's no way that Kumar's car wants to go. Remember, there was another one that we'd seen, wasn't there, in the pit lane, Sricharan V, who was pushed the length of the pit lane virtually, and it still wouldn't fire up. So this gives a bit of concern to teams if the cars stall. Why are they not restarting? There's the replay again. Lots of speed carried through turn 3, and then eventually, because you get on the slippy bit on the marbles, round comes the back, and that was enough to spit Rupesh Sivakumar across the road. Ritwik Thomas, the man who just missed him. And now the car, I think, having to be pushed way out of harm's way behind the barrier, because it is not going to restart, that's for sure. And as for Clinton Braganza, well, he's not going a whole lot further either. That car's now in a rather worse place than it was to start with at the end of the pit lane. Cue the big yellow recovery vehicle, I think, to try and get the yellow and white car out of the way. So the efforts to turn it into the pit lane have come to naught, and now it's stuck. Now it's going to need quite a bit of retrieval. It needs a suspended lift to be taken out of harm's way, brought down the pit road. So Clinton Braganza is the one we're waiting for now. The car also that caused the stoppage, Rupesh Sivak Kumar, out of harm's way already. And drivers preparing themselves for the resumption of this session. Also for later qualifying, one or two of them doing double duty this weekend. But this, having proposed that it was going to be a fairly brief interruption, now looking like a much longer stoppage, largely because the cars are proving so reluctant to either fire up or get out of harm's way. So there, Clinton Braganza's session looks like it has ended. But it doesn't want to go forward. Well, it might just go forward with lots of effort. Onto the tarmac, hopefully. The last thing you want to do is leave a car somewhere that it might then get struck by another errant car later in the session, but it might have to be parked out of harm's way for now, just to try and get the session back underway without losing too much more time. And that is indeed the plan. So 46th then, Clinton Braganza. It was quite a long way down, 17th out of the session. And the session still has 13 minutes to go there for Ravo Racing. Clinton Braganza out of the car, but deeply frustrated, I would have thought about that. It didn't look initially as though it was a spin that had stopped him. It looked more like he'd had to park with a mechanical problem, but he goes behind the barriers. He's out of the session. So are we good to go once more? Looking out over the exit of the last corner of the haulage yard and the roads, the busy industrial area nearby here in Sriperumbudur. The MRF Tower, the MRF Wheel, MRF the Madras Rubber Factory, key sponsors of Indian motor racing, as is an alternative tyre provider, but MRF taking centre stage this weekend with an international race weekend. Feature of this time of year here in Chennai, the Madras Grand Prix, going back many, many years to when it was a Formula 3 competition run over 2 weekends. And that used to tempt out some of the European drivers and teams. But the entry was never a massive one, so the decision was taken to change things into the one make MRF Challenge as a winter series. Now you've got the Saloon cars heading down the pit lane, and I don't think they are required. So they've been released probably on time for them, but in error because everything's running now so late. So the pit lane has got random Saloon cars in it that shouldn't be there, and are now going to block up the pit lane if we're not careful. Hey-ho. The next plan might be to try and get them back into the paddock. Let's move to the Formula FLGB 1300s as well, who are trying to wriggle their way out without being rear-ended by a Saloon car. So the session live, and Anjan Patodia, who didn't bother with the previous restart, I don't think has bothered with this either. So it should be a slightly quieter circuit for another 13 minutes and counting. This gives you a taster of what is to come as the Toyotas and the Suzukis and the Hondas make their way down the pit road. So we're back in business. We've got 12 minutes on the clock. And the fastest time in this much interrupted session, 1 minute 52.886, that of Anjan Patodia. Aya Singh with his damaged car, second fastest. Yes, the Saloons did venture out when they thought it was their start time. So that's why the confusion arrived in the pit lane. But the Formula LGB 1300s have their final few minutes to try and not affect the grid at all. That comes tomorrow morning, but really just to give the drivers a chance to get familiar with the circuit and to get as much track time out of the weekend as they possibly can. So today, all about free practice, a chance for drivers to learn the circuit, if needs be. Number 11 turns through, which is Ayun Showry. Work to do, 11th fastest. It's very much India's feeder series, the entry-level single-seater championship. Showry do in all of this? Better seemingly than their 0.5 can do, because Vishnu Rajkumar has a spin coming out of turn 2. That was the downfall of many in the MRF challenge for the 2-litre cars. It's becoming the same in LGB 1300 as well. Vishnu Rajkumar gets back on track, but leaving himself with a lot of work to do now, because it's another couple of laps wasted really. By the time he's got back up to speed, this one is squandered. So turning his way around the top of the lap. Are we going to have any improvements, any significant improvements before the end of the session? For the moment, we don't get sector times, so it's over the final lap time where we start to really see what shuffling we might be looking for. And Ayun Showry making his way up towards the completion of the lap now as he works his way down towards the final few corners. Over the brow, drop downhill, pit in on the right, but ignore that. Turn right, you see how dirty it is offline. Pick up the back of the grid markers, turn through the right-hander, sprint over the timing line. Then you've got that pit straight past the engineers on the pit wall, down to turn 1. And turn 1 itself has caught out 1 or 2 over the course of the day. Through goes number 10, up to 3rd fastest, Bhushan Tarija. Certainly pressing on now. So Tarija, admittedly 3 seconds down on the fastest time of Ajahn Patodia, but he's creeping up the order, which is good news for him. So Patodia, Singh, Tarija, Thomas, Kumar and Teja is the order. Bhushan Tarija through 3rd fastest, but out of that top 6 there aren't many still circulating because they've either got damage or mechanical problems or have just been abandoned in the pit lane. So just rather leave the way clear if he can find the time in the car for Bhushan Tarija to get himself even higher in the order. Got some traffic up the road ahead of him as they work their way now down towards what have we got, the last 7 minutes or so of the session. And number 3, Kamala Kanan, just up the road. Now that potentially could get in the way here and affect the lap time from Bhushan Tarija. Let's see how easy he can deal with the traffic. Swoops left. Tries to pick up a run on the inside, but I fear the lap is being compromised a little bit here because he hasn't yet been able to get past a slower car. And another spinner, it's Ayun Showry, who's been in the wars a little bit already in this session. The Momentum Racing car having another off. Now to the inside goes Bhushan Tarija, but he still can't find a way by. And you've got to say, it's not hugely cooperative driving this by Kamala Kanan to keep a quicker driver behind. Now, past the pits, the move should come. Of course, small engines, underpowered engines, it's not that easy to overtake anyway. You've got to keep up the momentum, but that's even more of a reason for the slower cars to get out of the way of the quick ones. So that lap from Tarija was a 56.7, so 7 tenths down. Actually, I thought he was going to lose more than that. It's not quite the end of the world, but certainly time lost by being stuck in traffic. Six more minutes of the session remain. So now that he's clear of the slower car, what can Bush and Tarija do before the very end? The one that we never saw a time from was number 8, Abdul Malik. Now, whether that car ever ventured out or crawled back into the problem needs investigation, but Abdul Malik, the one driver on the timing screen, never credited with an actual lap time in this. Through goes number 10, Bush and Tarija, still third fastest then. 5 3/4 minutes of the session still to run here. As there is the third placed car, the best placed of those still circulating, because as I've been saying, Anjan Patodia bailed from the session very early, and Aya Singh's car with enough damage to render that out. Indeed, he was part of the red flag early on. Also in strife now is Vishnu Rajkumar, not for the first time that we've seen. That car off the road quite spectacularly earlier on. So 5 more minutes are on the clock, we're almost at the end. But can anybody else improve a lap time before the end here? Over the timing line goes 11, Ayun Showry. Slow lap because of his off. And then through on the inside, Bush and Tarija, personal best, 1:55.327. So he's getting closer to the stricken Aya Singh's time. Through turn 2, heads Tarija. Runs it wide onto the curb. That was the undoing, remember, early on of Rupesh Siva Kumar. Still surprising how dirty the circuit is as well. So much litter offline that is there to catch out the unwary, and that in part is why people are having their own problems, because the grip level changes as other people make mistakes, bring the rubbish onto the circuit, catches you out the lap later. Through the S's goes Tarija a little bit wide, finds the dirt on the outside. Is anybody else improving of note? A bit further down the order, Sricharan V did go back out again despite that car being reluctant earlier, and he has improved 15th fastest. But Anjan Patodia doing the lap time very early on, 1:52.886, sitting pretty at the top of the times. Number 3, which is Kamala Kannan, still quite a long way down. And off the road, I'm afraid to say, Kamala Kannan we saw getting in the way of traffic early on, and now has come to grief. Is that going to be another red flag with only 3 minutes to go, or can that car drive away? Hurrah, it can drive away. Kamala Kannan now has to find the right direction, find a gap in the traffic, and off he sets. So he gets away. And let's try and have a look at, a very spectacular off from Kamala Kannan. At high speed, arrives backwards, coming into shot, and just misses the barriers. Slithers across the grass. He gets away again. Also in strife now is Bush and Tarija. He will get going. It's all happening. For relatively underpowered cars, they produce lots of drama. Let's hope the races are just as good, because we've had plenty of incident in the free practice sessions throughout the course of the day, and they've got some lively races to look forward to as well. These cars get 2 races over the weekend, 1 each day. What are we up to? Just over 1.5 minutes of the session still to run. 1 or 2 drivers now being a bit more subdued on their in-laps. And 11 is Ayun Showry heading towards us. But the only improver last time was Manas Madan, who got up to 7th fastest. So most drivers now either having their own spins or settling, I think, at the end of what's been a rather frantic session. So with the checkered flag imminent, we've got a minute to go. So, offered opportunity on the inside from Bhushan Tarija, gets through the traffic, but of course he had an off anyway, so I'm not convinced that there's going to be much to salvage out of this other than making sure he can squeeze through to do one more lap before the flag comes out. And Anjan Patodia still with that best time from earlier on, having rather dominated this session. Even though he's not done many laps, he has been very, very hard to beat. Now, Anjan Patodia the fastest, so let's hear from him. He's with Louise.
So I had to come out of the car.
So that happened once you came into the pits and the first red flag?
Yeah, that did happen when I came into the pit on the first red flag. While I was coming into the pit lane, that happened.
So you didn't feel anything in the car while you were out there if you're setting those good times?
Actually, the car felt quite good. It was quite grippy, and I feel I had a perfect car for this session.
It's your first time here in Chennai. How is it?
Oh, the track is amazing. The back section is quite physical because you have to hold the car. And 1 inch wrong also you can lose the car, so you might spin or you might lose time, so you have to be quite precise with this track.
Thanks very much.
So not bad for a rookie, and allowing for the problem as well. A great effort by Anjan Patodia. We've had the flag out, so the session is at an end, and yet more drama. Find a car going in the right direction. That's been the highlight of the session. We've had so many spins, quite a bit of damage. And right at the very end, yet another off for Bhushan Tarija, who is facing the wrong way. You can see why, as I've been making the point, people are spinning because they keep being caught out by more and more dirt on the road. But this time, he runs wide, gets into the dirt, round it goes. So, more and more rubbish brought across the circuit. And that, in turn, is there ready to catch out the next wave of cars. At least this one is able to restart, however. So Bhushan Tarija gets away. And will make his way to the checkered flag, but he is going to be third fastest based on his earlier times. Drops all the grass and the dirt and the dust on the road. And so now drivers working their way over the timing line, taking the checkered flag. One and two, I think, we're quite pleased that that session has come to an end. It saves them from further embarrassment and further drama. So, yet more dirt kicked up as the car of Bhushan Tarija goes through. And Anjan Patodia then ends the session as the fastest. Rupesh Sivakumar, who was fourth when he had his spin and couldn't get going again, he ends up sixth quickest in the end. So he, rather frustrated, will turn his attention to qualifying and hope for better things. Number 10 then has taken the flag, Bhushan Tarija, but will complete his in-lap. There aren't that many cars shown as having taken the flag, I suspect, because they're strewn mostly around Chennai after their problems across the last half an hour or so. So the timetable here somewhat delayed because of what has been a very lively session. Let's look back at some of the highlights. And and a chance for a number of drivers to explain perhaps why they were doing what they were doing. Bush and Tarija having a weave early on to get warmth into the tyres. Lots of people exploring the track limits pretty much everywhere. Rapid early on, but then having a spin, and it was his first of a number of them, was Ayun Showry. He was able to get going again, but ended up at 7th fastest. Ritwik Thomas was another spinner, and he also had a rather gravelly moment coming out of the penultimate corner, getting in people's way as he did so. And that was just before we had the first red flag, where off went Arya Singh and Bala Prasad with a lot of damage done to both cars, and that brought out a red flag. Drivers okay, the session resumed, but not for long, because we had yet more drama with one car stranded at turn 1, that being Clinton Braganza, and we had this car stranded at turn 3. Rupesh Sivakumar had a spin, undamaged, but it just would not get going again, so he was going nowhere. Ayun Showry kept on pushing. In the end, 7th fastest his reward. Bushan Tarija was another who kept on pushing, and he got himself to 3rd by the end of the session. Lucky not to have any damage at all though. Kamala Kanan off the road at very high speed indeed, a passenger across the grass. Kanan ending up 13th. And we weren't done yet, it was still in strife. Bushan Tarija losing it on his penultimate lap of the session. More dirt strewn across the road, more dust having to settle. Yellow flags having been waved vigorously, session long it feels. But eventually a checkered flag was shown as well to end the drama, to end the fun. And Anjan Patodia, despite being stuck in gear, is the man fastest at the end of the Formula LGB 1300 second free practice session. The time that he did, 1:52.885. Arya Singh, 2nd fastest on a 1:53.735 ahead of Bushan Tarija, and then Manas Madan improving towards the end. Ritwik Thomas being the man that rounds out the top 5 at the end of free practice 2. So down in the pit lane, the motley assortment of saloons are almost good to go. They've already had one free practice session from earlier on. Not all of them survived it without some dramas. But we are good to go, ready for this second free practice period. And very shortly, the field should be released out on track. The ESTEEM Cup, the Indian Touring Car Championship as well, and Hondas, Suzuki's, Toyotas, a largely Japanese lineup are all set, ready to go. Looking down the pit lane, it should be quite lively this, I would have thought, because it's a decent grid. The Red Rooster Performance car there you can see lined up ready to go, of Mystic Motorsport. And shortly, as I say, we'll get the cars released, ready for another 30 minutes. More pain, more gain, I see. That bodes ill, doesn't it? And the track is being swept in readiness of this session. So it'll be a few minutes, I think, before we get the cars released, and we've got some clearing up to be done as well.
जी पूरा कैमरा का इतना
So as the green flag waves, out heads the entry for the Saloon cars, the Indian Junior Touring Car Championship, the ESTEEM Cup, and it's free practice 2 for, as I say, this motley assortment of cars, with a lively brace of races in prospect for them over the course of the weekend. 2-litre maximum engine size, and all the saloons pour out together. One or two looking a little more race worn than others, it is fair to say, and some being rather more committed to the outlap than others as well. So the cars in rather more standard touring car trim than in other championships that you might find around the globe. But for those that don't want to go single-seater racing, this the best way of starting. It's another good low-cost way of coming into saloon car racing. Last year, the junior championship won by Keith D'Souza from Anant Pitawala. It was Arjun Narendran, who was the Indian touring car national champion, from Deepak Paul Chinappa and Ashish Ramaswamy. And you can see that it's going to be a busy old grid, this, as the field wriggles its way through the infield. Honda Civics, Suzuki Swifts, Toyota Corollas, a real old mix of car. At the end of this outlap, we'll then start to be able to concentrate on flying lap times. But traffic is going to be a real issue, it would appear, in all of this, because, and it's pleasing to see, it is so busy. It's going to be a rather crowded house. So the first one over the timing line is 77, Narendran, Arjun Narendran, from Varun Aneka, and then Sudan Rajan. And they are about the 3 that have managed to get themselves only clear track space. Number 16 through, which is the car of Aditya MN, for the purposes of the timing screen. The Race Concepts motorsport car. And 18 turning through turn 1, Vineet Abhiram and the Honda. And he's under attack straight away because diving up the inside, RP Rajarajan. So at the end of this next lap, we'll start to see some flying lap times offered up. Are they going to be better behaved, bearing in mind these are touring cars, he says with a voice laden with doom, than the single-seaters were? Because with 2 red flags and lots of spins, they rather disgraced themselves, whereas the saloons, and there you see number 16 that had a bit of suspension damage early on in the day, Aditya NM. The reigning junior champion is aboard 44, he's Keith D'Souza. He's in the entry list, is he on track? He's not yet credited with having started a flying lap time. He has just done so, as I mentioned his name. So 16, Aditya MN, will offer up a lap time shortly. 79 keeping out of harm's way, that being Anant Pitawala, runner-up indeed in the junior championship. The black car there going through was last year's junior champion Keith D'Souza, and behind him is 21 Kamlesh Parmar in the Honda. Already one heading down the pit road, in fact, which is Varun Anika. The 21, Kamlesh Parmar, on screen at the moment with the Honda. One of the smarter cars, it must be said. And there is Keith D'Souza, the reigning Indian Junior saloon car champion. Let's see how he fares against the more senior opposition now. The gun time, 2 minutes 2.260, offered up by number 77, Narendran. Arjun Narendran. From Sudanand Daniel Rajan, who is second fastest. The gap between them 7/10 of a second at the moment. Still pressing on, spectacularly so, 21 Kamlesh Parmar. And in fact, now that he's working his way up through the traffic, he's put himself on the road ahead of Keith D'Souza. So Kamlesh Parmar in the Honda heading up towards the timing line. Wheel lifting in good old touring car fashion. It's the front wheel drive buzz box. Accelerates its way up towards turn 12. So Narendran's gun time 2 minutes 2.260. Just up the road here is Arjun Zaveri, who I don't think is going to get in the way, but as he comes up towards the timing line, stays to the outside of the road. Is that going to give now a chance for Kamlesh Parmar to get up the inside? Immaculate Honda versus rather more battle-scarred Honda Civic there. Up towards the timing line as well, you've got Keith D'Souza, who is now 16th fastest. And Arjun Narendran has just gone across the line, but with a big buzz of the engine, cost himself a tenth of a second. So he's still the quickest, 2 minutes 2.260. Kamlesh Parmar draws attention to himself because the car is one of the smartest, if not the smartest out there. So Narendran from Sudanand Daniel Rajan, and then Vinod S is the order. RP Rajaran is 4th, Imran Abdul Majid 5th, and Chandresh Tolia rounding out the top 6. 79 going through the shot is to be found 16th, Anant Pitawala. Keith D'Souza goes through just ahead, in fact, of Pitawala. So despite the size of the entry, and despite what touring cars quite often do to themselves and to each other, so far so good, everyone keeping out of trouble. You say it's tempting fate. But there is Anant Pitawala giving chase to Keith D'Souza now, the two of them running together. Bear in mind that they were 1-2 in the junior championship last year. D'Souza waves him by, so Pitawala goes through. And working their way now towards the mid-part of the lap. The gap at the moment is only effectively 0.2 of a second, a fifth of a second between Narendran and Rajan for the top time in this free practice session 2. Keeping out of the way, just in the nick of time, number 32 there, as he was dive bombed rather. That being Chandresh Tolia, who is going to lose out also to the quickest man in the session because Narendran has just gone past him. So Arjun Narendran, there he is, number 77, goes round the outside. Up towards the timing line, he will now come. And the fastest of anybody has now become Anant Pitawala. So it was worth him finding a way effectively past Keith D'Souza, who is up to 8th, incidentally, because it's put Pitawala to the very top of the times. The yellow car of Chandresh Tolia that we saw being dive bombed has just come down the pit road. Number 3 keeps out of trouble, Hisham EKP. 79, Anant Pitawala now looking very strong indeed here. Not so strong, and off the road is 24, Mohammed Faisal Kuti. Gets back on track. Having cutted the corner a bit. Number 10 in the meantime is to be found a long way down. Virish Prasad is 24th. We've got 26 in total. 1 or 2 having only done installation laps, but now the wick is being turned up rather. We've had 10 incident-free minutes. Find some wood to touch. And back to the top of the times goes now RP Rajaram. So, as you see, Kuti going off the road in replay, and he circumnavigated a whole section, never mind just cut the corner. Gets back on track. There, in the meantime, is number 14. Now that is RP Rajarajan, who is the fastest man in the session. Rajarajan now 8/10 up on Pitawala. So Rajarajan accelerating his way up towards the end of a lap. with an 8/10 of a second cushion over anybody else. Anand Pitwala, then Arjun Narendran, the order. But Viresh Prasad has now gone to the top of the times, and Keith D'Souza goes second. So the two juniors, the stars of last year's junior championship, Keith D'Souza, Anand Pitwala second and third, but Viresh Prasad now up to the top of the times. There is number 10, Viresh Prasad, who is ahead on track of 21, Kamlesh Parmar. Riding the curbs there, goes 21. There's a little bit of smoke now coming out of the back of Viresh Prasad's car. If it is, then he may not be long for this session. Over the timing line is about to go 14. RP Rajarajan. But that's the man to beat at the moment. Viresh Prasad, 2 minutes 0.379. And he's also making good his escape, isn't he, from Kamlesh Parmar's Honda behind him here. So the Honda Civic starting to break away. In strife is 75, though, who will get going again in a moment, hopefully. Sri Hariram does get going. So Sri Hariram back on track and presses on. Another one in trouble. Big spin, but thankfully no damage. Kasha Sai, coming out of turn 1, manages to miss anything solid. Now that was the Mystic Motorsport car we caught a glimpse of in the pit lane earlier on, with no pain, or no more pain, more gain on the driver's crash helmet. I noticed as well it's got sponsorship from a spinning mills company. Well, the spinning is of the wrong sort. It's back on track, but there we are. The spinning company entry back onto the right bit of the lap, carries on in the session, which is at the 17 minutes to go mark. In the pits at the moment, there is Arjun Narendran. And off the road goes 32, early pit visitor in the session, Chandresh Tolia. So glad I talked about nearly being halfway without any incident, because now we're starting to get a bit dim-ob happy here. The yellow peril gets back onto the circuit. Chandresh Tolia sets off once more. But it is Viresh Prasad still who is the fastest by only 0.221 of a second. Pit lane becoming a bit busier, as in also now comes RP Rajarajan. '64 is Sudanand Daniel Rajan, and he's 7th fastest at the moment. The order on screen is your top 6, and the best of the rest is that man, Sudanand Rajan. I thought for a moment there was a bit of fluid coming out of the back of the car, but it looks okay. The Suzuki Swift as it leans again. Up now towards the right-hander. You can see the bonnet flapping in the background on Chandresh Tolia's car there. The next thing is he's going to go down the pit straight at a fair lick. The wind will get underneath it, rip it open, smash the windscreen if he's not careful. That, I would have thought, ought to be a pit visit, or even a black and orange meatball flag to say there's something wrong with your car you may not be aware of. But Tolia is really going for it, but you can see how it's lifting. Might be worth staying with this to see if he does carry on, and if and when that rips itself open, because it's not far away from, I wouldn't have thought, flying into his face there. Heading for the pit road after an earlier excursion, Mohammed Faisal Kuti. And a sideways, Tolia gets it all wrong at the last corner, bounces his way across the grass. That might just give the bonnet a stay of execution, because he's got to pick up speed now, so while he's doing that, there'll be less air getting underneath it. Not for the first time, Tolia having a spin. He did it at the first corner early on in the session, remember. Number 16 has had a drama as well. And so Aditya MN gets back into the session. And this is the replay of Tolja arriving at the last corner, the back stepping out of line, and he thankfully stays away from the barrier and continues in the session. So a good save, and like I say, it gives that bonnet a stay of execution. I'm still sure that that is going to end up being ripped into the face of the driver as the pace quickens and the air gets underneath it. You can see it flapping away. Maybe that sideways moment has calmed him. No, forget it. He's still going strong, isn't he? So 32, Chandresh Tolja works his way up towards the end of another lap. We've got 14 minutes to go. Who's that that's gone off the road? It's 0-5, which is Swajit Achareka. You see 0-5 on the touring car. You still think Peter Brock, but Swajit Achareka goes rally crossing back onto the circuit with no damage done, thankfully. Number 75 goes over the timing line, which is Sri Hariram. After his earlier spin, Sri Hariram carries on, undaunted. And 88 turning his way through as well now, which is the slowest in the session. Varun Anika yet to do a lap time. He's been in and out of the pits, but never actually a full flying lap, so that's still to come. And another spinner in the background is 42. That's at the last corner, and that is Arjun Zaveri. His Honda Civic will get going. It says game over on the back. Not quite. Control-Alt-Delete and have another go. Back into the session then, 42. Looking forward to these races. They are going to be lively, are they not? Road-registered cars, limited modification that you can do to them. So Arjun Zaveri carries on his merry way. The Indian Touring Car Series split at one class of up to 1800cc, the others 1800 to 2.2 litre. And you can have Group A or Group N spec cars, but the majority are Group N. Group A over here is a kind of Group N plus, really. It's limited modification. And after his spin, a bit chastened, I think, is Arjun Zaveri. Number 54, Kasha Sai. He was a spinner early on, remember, at this very corner. Keeping out of trouble this time around, goes through. A flash of the lights to who? Well, probably the cameraman, I think, number 22, which is Rohit Ver. Still a green flag he's waving at the exit of the last corner, and that's because we've had another spinner. 75 has had another spin. He's got going, incidentally, but 75, which is Sri Hariram, has been off again. Kasha Sai, meantime, 54 then. 17th fastest. There is 22, the light flashing Rohit VRR, Rohit Vera. Loads of understeer, which he controls. And number 1, which is Imran Abdul Majid. Another for team game over. He's on the verge of doing it as well as he locks up at turn 2. Now the session has got just under 11 more minutes still to run. That's the replay of the spin for Sri Hariram. Coming out of the final turn, leaves all the witness marks on the road, you can see, and gets himself in the right direction to carry on. Meantime, what else have we got going on? Number 7 for performance racing, Sri Venkata Tija, and another rally crosser. Who was that we lost? 09 is Rajashekar. Good thing is, despite the fact they're exploring all the limits of the road and more besides, no one's coming back with any damage. The Honda Civic locks her inside left wheel, rear wheel, blasts on. 9 3/4 minutes still to run. Session looking as though it's going to remain headed by Viresh Prasad because he's pitted, but I think he's content to be there at the moment. Now there is Varun Anika, who, remember early on, couldn't string a lap together, was in and out of the pit lane, has now managed to get himself up to third fastest. And he's only 0.258 of a second away from the gun time. So here, Varun Anika could well, come the end, be a real force to be reckoned with. He's getting quicker and quicker all the time. And not only that, but I think he's got the road to himself just at the moment. So it's looking good, this. Somebody else just got it wrong, I think, at the last turn. And there is the answer. To whom? It is Svajit Acharaka again. Gets going slowly. Double yellows there. But Svajit Acharika rejoins. It's all happening, isn't it? It's been a very lively session, but thankfully without the same interruptions as we had in the single-seaters. Into the pit lane is number 6, Srinivas Tejak, and this explains what happened to Acharaka. Big lose coming into the corner. And more follows down at turn 1, so Acharaka having a horrible time of it now with another off. How's number 6 getting on in all of this? Because Srinivas Tejak K has been a little bit anonymous, down to 19th. And with 7 more minutes to go, Viresh Prasad, Keith D'Souza, the top 2. The next explorer is Hisham EKP, number 3, who gets back onto the circuit, ahead of Keith D'Souza in number 44, next in the queue behind him there. Now D'Souza has only got to find 0.221 of a second, and he's at the top. Last year's junior champion then. Presses on. And the Suzuki, he's got the Honda behind, heading up towards pit in. I suspect D'Souza is going to bail from this because past him has just gone Varun Anika. Order changes. Anika goes up to second fastest now. So Viresh Prasad is the fastest, Varun Anika second. And Keith D'Souza down to third ahead of Anant Pithwala. Then fifth is R.P. Rajarajan, and it is Vinod S. who is sixth, and a big lock-up from Anika, who's got better and better and better as this session has worn on from being stone last. He's now up to second quickest with only a fifth of a second to split him from Viresh Prasad ahead. So now the run along the back straight. Just up the road ahead is number 3, Hisham EKP. But the way that Anika is going suggests that he's going to improve even more before the very end of this. Can he go top before the very end? We've got 5 more minutes still to go. So we're almost there, but who is it going to be that tops the times? Viresh Prasad, 2 minutes 0.379, currently the fastest. More tire smoke as Varun Anika pushes on, oh so spectacularly. But the checkered flag is out a little bit early, in fact, so 25 minutes they were given, not the full half an hour. There it is. So with the timetable running rather behind, a few minutes are shaved from that session. And Viresh Prasad will end it as the fastest. There, heading for the flag, is Kasha Sai, who has got a long way down, actually 17th out of the 26 that we have. Checkered flag is imminent. Was that an improvement at the end for Kasha Sai? The answer is that it was not, so he stays 17th fastest. And with Viresh Prasad being the quickest by 0.220 of a second. In the end, the gap between Anika second and Keith D'Souza third was 1,000th of a second, which suggests that it's going to be a very close category when we go to racing tomorrow afternoon here. Number one, Imran Abdul Majid goes through the dust cloud, rides the curbs. 75 in the meantime as well is Sri Hariram, who's had a couple of spins in the session. That should be good to safe and sound head over the timing line. So at the end of the session, it is Viresh Prasad who is the quickest, and the bonnet never did fly open, surprisingly. I think the window has popped out the side, but for Chandresh Tolia, the car looks a lot smarter than I was anticipating it would. I was rather fearful of that bonnet flapping into his face, but although a window looks like it's prized itself out of line a bit on the left-hand side, the front of the car looks okay. So down the pit lane comes the field, and a very full grid will, I'm sure, deliver some cracking action over the course of the race weekend. .54, Kasha Sai has taken the flag, in fact, as so is Srinivas Teja K up the road ahead, so they're on an in lap, but they're still pressing on, aren't they? They give the suggestion that they're still going for a time, but I think as they press the rise, now they'll have to back out of it, take the flag, and come down the pit road. So Viresh Prasad ends up as the fastest by 2/10. Varun Anika second, Keith D'Souza third, 1,000th between those two. Anant Pitawala fourth, and then it is RP Rajarajan who rounds out the top five. It's been a very lively session, and these cars, for the purposes of the race weekend, will have 3 races, all at 8 laps as a distance, as a journey, and expect 1 or 2 more little dents and scrapes, I think, compared to what we have now come the end of the weekend. Let's have a look at some of the highlights of the session, which began with 1 or 2 drivers being ultra committed, others being a bit more cautious. But it wasn't long before they started to stray from the racing line and the dust started to gather in the sky. And 1 or 2 also found their own novel approach to some of the corners. Like that. Coming out of turn 3, for example, the first drama falling car 33. Cushy was the man that got it all wrong going through the S's and completely missed out the best part of, 3 corners. Got himself back onto the road, somewhat chastened. Then we had Tolia with his big spin coming out of turn 12. He rallied across his way back onto the circuit, bonnet flapping as he went. He wasn't the only one. Sri Hariram did the same thing. He couldn't catch the slide though. He ended up pointing in the wrong direction. Anika, having been at the foot of the times early on, threw everything at the session. Got himself in the end up to second fastest at just .220 away from the top time and 1,000th quicker than anybody else. There were more spins to come, with the final corner being the one that was catching them all out. Thankfully though, nobody ending up with any real damage. The marshals with the yellow flags very busy indeed, all of which, as you see, understeering 2-litre saloon cars suggest that we're going to have 3 very lively races indeed. This lap is a real challenge to the drivers, 3.7 kilometres long, and it's going to be, for certain, a busy weekend of action for the saloons. 2 more practice sessions to come, single-seaters, and we'll be back in a few minutes with the MRF 1600s.
Oh, so he can't hear me yet. We need to tell him when we're going on air. Yeah, okay.
You're talking to me, Scott?
Yeah, you're next to the webcast guy.
Yes.
So when we're going to go on air,
Yeah.
can you say to the person sitting next to you, we're going on air in 10 seconds. He's basically, if he doesn't push the button, then we're just talking to ourselves.
Okay.
But we don't know. He doesn't. He's going to get comms to me after this race or after today. But
Okay.
until that point, you are my comms to him. So tell him we're going on air in 10 seconds.
Okay, and when are we going on air?
Oh, when I see the cars.
Right.
And I have no idea when they're coming to us. Because we're 20 minutes over the schedule as it is, aren't we? So, the other thing is, when we do this one, this next session, I'll show you the MRF 1600 points of round 1.
Okay.
Does anyone know round 1? 1600.
Yes, yeah. Welcome to Chennai. It's free practice 2 for the MRF 1600s. This round 2 of a championship that will continue for this season. But this race weekend has the final rounds of the MRF Challenge that spans 2016 and 2017, and that is going to be decided come Sunday afternoon. We've had one lively session for these cars already. Free practice 2 underway for these 1.6 litre Van Diemen built chassis with 4 Duratec engines. David Addison and Louise Beckett with you for coverage this weekend. And after one round in Delhi, 2 races but 1 round, it is Ananth Shanmugan and Nayad Chatterjee tying with a first and a third each as the championship leaders. But they're not here. So Anindith Reddy is the man who in real terms is the man to beat this weekend. Alex Bora behind him, but he's absent too. So is Anshul Shah. Chetan Korada is here. Arya Singh likewise. Ishan Dodiwala is here. Angad Mathuru is not. And Anthony George missed the first session, even though he's on the entry list. So it's a rather different look from what we had a month or so ago. But you can guarantee that it's going to be lively racing nonetheless. We've got only 10 cars. It's a fairly modest entry for the 1600s this weekend, but anticipate action. And earlier on, when we had the cars out for the first session, it was Raghu Rangasamy who was the fastest, despite not doing very much of the session because the car had a gearbox problem and he was in some strife and couldn't go back out. But Rangasamy will be a man to watch, I think, once we get this session properly underway. 30 minutes, they've done an outlap, so it won't be long now before we start to enjoy proper lap times. Keeping out of harm's way there, number 7, Chetan Korada, working his way through turn 1. And further up the road there, you can see number 10, Arya Singh. Now, Singh is doing double duty here this weekend. He's doing these MRF 1600s. He's also doing the 1300cc single-seater category that we have here. And at this part of the circuit, in the free practice session, about an hour or so ago, he had quite a big accident, got involved with another car, ripped wheels off his own, bounced across the grass and put him out, and he was a very grumpy Arya Singh. But he's back on track, pretty much undaunted. And let's see how he fares now in this next free practice period. Rangasamy, as I say, was the man in charge earlier on. The time that he did was a 1 minute 40.401, so that's the time they're aiming for. And Rangasamy's first flying lap of this session is a 1:40.524, so straight away he's on the money. Arya Singh then turning his way through. As I said, Anthony George missed the first session, and he's not ventured out for this one either, disappointingly. As down towards the completion of the lap heads the traffic, with number 8 there being Ishan Dodiwala, who ended the first session 8th of the 9. Arya Singh crests the brow. So in the first session, it was, as I said earlier, Rangasamy who was the fastest. He initially had an advantage of about 3.3 seconds. And for the rest of the session, it was off everybody else narrowing that gap. Well, he's kind of done it again because he's already 1.4 seconds to the good over Sandeep Kumar, who was the second fastest driver in the first session as well. Can that gap come down? Can anybody top Raghu Rangasamy by the end of the day? Well, not if they do things like that, because there's a big spin for 91 Siddharth Trivalora, who goes around. Hopefully he can get the engine fired up and rejoin. Yellow flag is displayed. And there he sits for the moment, stranded, but does get going again. Siddharth Trivalora rejoins the session now. Trivalora finished in the first session 5th fastest. And he's away and running now. There you've got number 8, which is Ishan Dodiwala. And Anthony George has ventured out for this session. So we do have the full complement of 10. Anthony George, the driver from the Emirates, on track. Now let's see how he fares. Dubai to Chennai is only about 3.5 hours or so, so it's not too long a journey to go racing. Number 2 is Anindith Reddy, who was very quick, very spectacular in the earlier free practice session, perhaps at times a little bit too much so, because there were occasions where he was trying to get so much out of the car that it was going against an improved lap time rather than helping him. But Anindith Reddy working his way now along the back straight, and he has done a 1:41.756 in this session, as against a 1:41.1 from earlier. The best lap time Ragul Rangasamy has just done 1 minute 40.029, so that's quicker than he went in the earlier session. This Irangota-Kotai circuit, 3.717 kilometres long. And you see again Anindith Reddy just nicking the curb, just getting a little bit crossed up as he pushes on. Sprinting his way then now towards the completion of a lap. So in the earlier session he did the time very, very early indeed, and in strife again I fear is IJLC because he's been off the road. Tyres are all dirty, he will carry on and try and clean those, but IJLC having had a moment somewhere. Is this going to explain it? It is. It's at turn 3 exit. Too much speed, round he goes. Back in the right direction, hooks a gear. Hasn't done much for the tyres, has he? You can see the state of them as he rejoins now. So he gets going once more, but a rather frustrated IJLC. It is not a good day for him at the moment. This MRF F1600, India's premier single-seater race car, built at JA Motorsport in Coimbatore with technical collaboration with Van Diemen. It's very much part of India's national racing programme, has been for the last 6 years now. The development, the design, the engineering of the cars all done between 2008 and 2010. Testing initially, in fact, done in Malaysia at Sepang before a test here. And Jordan King, Alice Powell, for example, have made their way through this series. Making his way through the grass, though, is Anindith Reddy, and now he needs the map to try and work out which way he's meant to be going. That looks favourite, he thinks. So, in the weeds, Anindith Reddy, he's going to have to pit because look at all the gunge he's scooped up in the air intakes and the radiators, so the car is going to go to the pits, otherwise the temperature gauge will go off the clock. Here he evinces how he got it all wrong. Too much speed carried up the back straight, locks the rears, goes straight on, never even looked remotely like making the corner, and that puts him way out in the wilderness as Anindith Reddy heads rally crossing style back towards anything that's remotely like tarmac. So a big, big moment for him. And Anindith Reddy had just got himself up to third fastest, but this next lap, as I say, should only really bring him to the pit lane because of the incident he's just had. The last thing he needs is to stay out there and have the car overheating. So then number 7, Chetan Korada, currently 4th fastest. Whoops, a bit squirrely, but pushing. And in the pit lane is the fastest man thus far, Ragul Rangasamy, with the JA Motorsport officials. JA Motorsport that organises championships, builds race cars, coordinates motorsport in this part of the world. And Rangasamy here doing as few laps as he can, I suspect, to try and keep life in the tyres, let everybody else drive round and round and round and hurt the rubber. And he's going to be left with a decent fresh set. 7, Chetan Korada, accelerating his way now through that final S. His best lap time is a 1:41.541 over the brow, down towards the last corner of the lap, stays away from the pit in line, so he's going to go for a time and go for another lap. We've had the first third of the session completed. And that's the order. Ragul Rangasamy ahead of Sandeep Kumar, and then the recovering Anindith Reddy, who actually did not pit. He did. Oh, no, he has pitted now. The timing screen didn't suggest that he'd pitted, but he has made his stop. They have cleared out the radiators, and he's away now. So he's got a point to prove here. He's just dropped to 4th as well because Kartik Tarani there, number 16, has just gone 3rd. So it's Rangasamy from Kumar, Tarani, Reddy, Korada, Singh, Trevalora, Dodhiwala, Kumar and George. That's the order. And Anindith Reddy then back out, back on track. And now trying to get himself up to speed once more as number 16 there, Kartik Tarani, accelerates his way through turns 4 and 5. So Ragul Rangasamy looking almost unstoppable here. He's now got his lap time down to a 1:39.811. He's 6 tenths up on anybody else. Well, if you multiply that over a race distance, it's going to be quite a margin. Lots of curbs being used by Karthik Tarani there as he tries to hustle on, bring down the gap in terms of the time between himself and Sandeep Kumar. It's about 0.2 of a second between those two that are second and third in the classification at the moment. This free practice too, so it doesn't affect the grid. Late on the brakes and the car squirming a little bit. Karthik Tarani. Tyres squeal as well in protest as he accelerates on. Karthik Tarani, who was another of the drivers that missed the races in Delhi, so starts on the back foot as far as the championship is concerned. But if he carries on like this, showing good pace, then he'll do all right this weekend, I would have thought. Works his way up towards the timing line. He'll break the beam now, and that lap is no quicker. Behind him is Anindin Reddy. That was his out lap completed, so now he's onto a flyer. And we've got 17.5 minutes of the session still to go. There is time for the order to shuffle, but as far as Raghu Rangasamy is concerned, he's still sitting pretty at the top of the times and being able to keep the tyres in a very good condition for racing this weekend. Anindin Reddy and fourth fastest. Works his way past that little cut through for the club circuit. This is where he had his big moment a few laps ago, but this time it looks okay. If anything, though, he hooks the wheel a bit too tight on the inside. That very nearly spits him off the road going in the other direction as he slides his way through that S, but he gets away with it. So Anindin Reddy heading up towards the midpoint of the lap. And as he does so, Raghu Rangasamy's 1:39.811 looking impregnable at the moment, because there are very few improvements coming, actually, never mind significant ones. But as far as Reddy is concerned, he needs to improve from fourth quickest if he can. Another one off the road, and not for the first time. Siddharth Tribalora, that's at turn 1. So you get the feeling that over the course of the races, we're going to have quite a lot of shuffling because people are making mistakes rather a lot. There you've got number 2, which is the car of Anindin Reddy. He's heading up towards the completion of another lap. This is turn 12, into which he will go now. Heading up towards the timing line, and as he does so, is that going to be an improvement? It is, goes third, 1:40.605, so he's now 0.794 away from the top time. Raghu Rangasamy accelerates, Raghu Rangasamy's time is still the one to beat. Anindin Reddy accelerates up through turn 2. Anthony George, incidentally, having missed this morning, still getting himself used to the circuit, and he is the slowest by quite some margin. He's within about 3.5 seconds of Jai Kumar, but it's a big gap. That's a very slow Chetan Korada. Why is that a very slow Chetan Korada? He's not just come out of the pit lane, I don't think. So, is there a problem? We've done 14 minutes of the session now. Over the timing line goes number 10, Arya Singh. Arya Singh, who fallen down the order somewhat, really. He was doing quite nicely early on, 6th quickest he was. But the time not really coming down. He did have his off and made his tyres all grubby, so a lap or two to try and clean those will have not helped the case. But Arya Singh now trying to get himself back onto terms with everybody else. You can see again, and it's been common really all afternoon, how there becomes effectively one line. As more and more people make mistakes and bring debris and dirt onto the circuit, you've got to thread your way between it. So going offline to do any sort of overtaking is pretty perilous. And you catch some of that, you have your own mistake, you bring even more of it back onto the road. So Arya Singh heads up through the top of the lap, out in the wilderness to a degree, as he heads through that right-hander, sprinting his way back towards civilization, back towards the buildings. In the pit lane is the rather troubled Siddharth Tribalora, who's had these 2 offs. Got the California Superbike School as a supporter. Anindin Reddy, incidentally, an improver last time, 140.409. He's up to second, so he's going the right way about this. Raghu Rangasamy watching what's going on, but for the moment not needing to go out there and fight for his top time. And with half the session to go, I should still think he's going to be safe. So number 16, Karthik Parani, presses on, but he's down to fourth now. The sleeper in all of this has been Sandeep Kumar, who's yet really to show what he might be capable of. He's there or thereabouts, but still flying under the radar a little bit. 6/10 back on Raghu Rangasamy, who's going to take some stopping, despite the best efforts being thrown at it here by Anindith Reddy. Sideways he is as he works his way round the back of the paddock. Over the brow, down towards the final corner, turn right. Going to be neat and tidy through here, and he rides the curb a little bit on the inside that just makes the car skip ever so slightly. He comes over the timing line, and as he goes through, that lap is a 40.888, 4/10 down on an earlier best. And it looks hard work at turn one as well. It's twitch, twitch, twitch all the way around. He survives it, but a lot of effort being put in now. Number 7 in the pit lane is Chetan Korada. It's seen a slow lap, and it ends with a pit stop. Engine fired up. Engine not fired up. Ishan Dodiwala here, chasing after Arya Singh. Two of them. Singh 5th and Dodiwala 8th, getting themselves together on track. Arya Singh powering his way again around the back of the paddock. Turn 11. The timing line he will come, and as he does so, Arya Singh breaks the timing beam, doesn't improve. Interesting this, that the bulk of the times are being done early on in the session. Now, is it the heat, is it track conditions? And you can see again, with all the stones lying on the ground, how tricky it can be to get the right line. Is that what's affecting people and preventing them from going faster? Either way, Chetan Korada is going to have another go at it, if and when it fires up. Problem? Let's see. He'd been given the indication to fire the engine up a little while ago, and it struggled. I think it's all right now. Hooks a gear, fires it down, away he goes. Through comes number 2. Anindith Reddy, and he gets it wrong again. That was at turn 3. Anindith Reddy, just like in the first session, throws everything at it, but comes unstuck a little bit, just overdrives. And so there, another mistake made, another lap wasted. Regroups, tries again. And there, in the pit lane, being shown the live timing. Number 16 it is, which is Karthik Parani. So he sees he's 4th. He knows that he's 0.891 of a second back from anybody else. And in a moment, we'll, I suspect, go back out again. As off the road, big time there goes Ishan Dodiwala. Way, 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 way off he goes. Manages to stop before he gets to the trees, but that was a very, very big off for him. No damage. Won't have done the tyres any good. Would have picked up a whole load of stuff in the radiators, gets back onto the circuit. But he was a long, long way off between turns 1 and 2. It started at turn 1, finished at turn 2. That's some of it. He'd already been going for a while before we got to him because it was such a big moment. And you see the further off he goes, the deeper the cut grass, and all of that just gets scooped into the air intakes. So Dodiwala back on track, but I would have thought a pit stop beckons here. Down towards the 50-metre board, brake, turn right, Dodiwala 8th quickest. Anthony George, incidentally, continues to improve. He's still got some time to find, but he is chipping away. Getting closer to Jaisampar Kumar. Up towards the end of the lap goes Ishan Dodiwala. Arya Singh has just pitted, incidentally. The two of them having been running together on track earlier. Dodiwala is going to come into the pit lane as well. Threads the car between the white lines at pit in and makes the run down towards the team. Kartik Tarani then back out. Heading up towards the timing line. So this is the out lap, so it's the lap that he's just started that's the one that's going to count. He was in the pit lane for round about 2 minutes. 7 minutes and change on the clock as Tarani accelerates up to turn 2. Bit of a lock-up behind him as Chetan Korada pushes on as well. More and more parts of the circuit becoming more like a rallycross stage, rallycross circuit with grass, with stones littering the circuit now. We have seen marshals doing a bit of sweeping in between sessions, but then everyone comes pouring out again, makes mistakes, and makes the track as bad as ever. Now, what else before the end of this is likely to change, I wonder, because now we're hardly seeing any improvements, the session very much having plateaued in that respect. So where do we go from here in terms of seeing who the next improver might be? Arya Singh might have something to say about it because he's just gone out. Kartik Tarani has not given up either, has he? Here he is coming over the brow down towards the last corner. He will accelerate his way up towards the timing line now, and when he breaks the beam, let's just see what the lap is, because it's his first flying laps into pit stop. It's an improvement. It's a 1:40.277, so it puts him 3rd quickest. Kartik Tarani then moves up. So the order, Rangasamy, 'twas ever thus. Kumar 2nd, Tarani 3rd, Reddy down to 4th, Korada 5th, Singh 6th, Trimlor at 7th, Dodiwala 8th, Kumar is 9th and George is 10th. Anthony George having done things like saloons and radicals in the UAE in the past. But having said that it had plateaued, now a few more improvements come. George, one of them, but he's still the slowest, but he's getting nearer to everybody else. Trivalora has gone quicker 7th, and Korada has gone quicker 5th. Just under 5 minutes of the session to go now. This circuit with its mix of fast corners, of slow corners, of some S's and some nice fast sections for the drivers, a real challenge. How do you go on setup? Do you get it right for the slow twiddly bits, or do you work on it for the fast sections? Used to play host to what was called the Madras Grand Prix, which was a Formula 3 event spread over 2 weekends, and there was the motorbike Grand Prix for 250cc bikes at the same time. And that was a staple of this time of year, but it was difficult to entice the Formula 3 teams, so the MRF Challenge took over, and this second tier category for the 1600 engine cars has been a very, very good accompaniment to it. number 16, Kartik Tarani, third fastest, 1 minute 40.277. And we've got now just 3.5 minutes of the session to go as Tarani kicks up the dirt. Raghu Rangasamy, however, who ended the earlier session a bit previous to go and have his lunch, has hardly done anything in this. He's been sitting in the pit lane watching the data, but illustrating the benefit of doing a good time early on when everything's nice and cool. The checkered flag is out, incidentally, again a little bit early. We've had this in 1 or 2 sessions today, that the checkered flag has come out slightly in advance, but with so few cars circulating, perhaps that's understandable. Anindith Reddy was an improver. So Reddy fourth, and right at the very end, would you believe, Sandeep Kumar does the fastest time of the day, 1:39.787 on his very last lap to go 24 thousandths quicker than Raghu Rangasamy. Where that lap came from is a question, because Sandeep Kumar never really looked likely to all session, and then right at the very end goes 24 thousandths quicker. There he is, Sandeep Kumar, a great effort put in right at the very end to go to the top of the times, and as he took the flag to do it, so there was no chance that Raghu Rangasamy was going to be able to go back out again and attack him. So Raghu Rangasamy ends up second, Kartik Tarani third, Anindith Reddy fourth, Chetan Karada fifth, and the top 6 rounded out by Arya Singh. Big surprise though, Sandeep Kumar, who has looks as though he might be in contention for a podium come racing, but was certainly impressed with that pole position. Sorry, with that top time, I should say, in the free practice session. So a job well done by Sandeep Kumar. Raghu Rangasamy might have other thoughts on that. So Rangasamy, must have thought he was good for the top time. There's the car, long since put away for the night, wheels off, being prepped for qualifying tomorrow, but then right at the very end, missing out by 24 thousandths of a second, Raghu Rangasamy, to Sandeep Kumar, who takes over the top time. So everybody making their way down the pit lane. Qualifying will come tomorrow morning for these cars, then they get 2 races over the course of the weekend, one tomorrow and one on Sunday. Let's have a look at how the standings are. Sandeep Kumar then does the best time, 24 thousandths quicker than Raghu Rangasamy. Kartik Tarani third from Anindith Reddy, and Chetan Korada rounds out the top 5 at the end of free practice 2, the MRF 1600s in this MRF Challenge weekend here in Chennai. So the pit straight empty, the pit straight earlier, very busy as the cars went out for free practice 2, but Chetan Korada letting the traffic go before he went for a quick lap time, finding himself though with a problem having to pit. 91 was an early spinner, Siddharth Trevalora, and Trevalora got going again, but ended up 7th fastest. He was able to rejoin. 1 or 2 others had spins, Arya Singh being another rotator. He got himself going again and ended the session 6th fastest. Anindith Reddy didn't just have an off, he had a big off. He ended up missing out a whole section of the circuit as he went skating across the grass, and then had to get the sat-nav out to guide him back towards the circuit. After his off and a pit stop, Arya Singh pressed on. Worked his way around turn 1, found the bump on turn in. Coming through the last corner though, Anindith Reddy was still pushing as hard as he could up the curve as he accelerated towards the timing line. He did improve to go 2nd at one point, ended up 4th, and this moment coming through turn 3 didn't help matters either. Perhaps the widest moment of the day came from Ishan Doriwala, who was almost in the bushes. So why did he go coming out of turn 1? He got himself in the right direction, carried on his merry way. But as Kartik Tarani pressed on,
Sandeep Kumar,
he got himself up to 3rd fastest, 2nd at the end when the flag came out, Raghu Rangasamy, and right at the very end as he took the flag, it was Sandeep Kumar who ended up as the fastest Let's hear from Sandeep. He's with Louise Beckett.
Well, talk about leaving it to the very last moment. Sandeep, that was impressive right at the end there.
Yeah, I started off I divided my practice into 2 stints, and when I went out the first stint, I was pushing really hard, and the times were just not coming, just overdoing everything. I came back, and then I was cooling down the tires, and then when the second stint, when I went out, the car was handling perfect, but it's just a bit all over the place because the tires are still not warm up. But I guess that's the best way to drive the car on the circuit. So I guess the tires really helped through the second stint. And then the last lap, I think again I just tried to put all the corners together, get a good lap, and I guess that's about it. So I think it's really about just basic, just getting your apexes, getting your exits right, and yeah, that's about it. I'm really exhausted now to go get myself hydrated.
Well, you go get hydrated and have a rest. Well done, it's a great performance.
Thank you so much, bye.
So great job done. So Sandeep Kumar it is who ends up as the fastest driver in the session from Raghurangasamy, and then Karthik Tarani for third fastest. So that's free practice 2 done for MRF 1600s. Qualifying takes centre stage tomorrow morning. Bye for now. The track is live here in Chennai for free practice 2 for the MRF Challenge cars. The 2 litres making their way out on track for this, the final race weekend in this mini-series that spans 4 race weekends, back end of 2016, the start of 2017. And we come here with Joey Mawson, Harry Newey and Mick Schumacher as the 3 top drivers in the championship. And of course that crown up for grabs come Sunday afternoon when we have the 4th and final race. You get points in qualifying, top time nets you 2, and that will be tomorrow morning. And then we have 2 races each day. Joey Mawson, who's won last year's 2016 German F4 championship, comes here as the championship leader with Harry Newey and Mick Schumacher behind him, Felipe Drugovich and Ralph Aaron, winners both, 4th and 5th ahead of Pedro Cardoso, then Yuri Vips, Kim Louis Schramm absent, Rinus van Kampthout absent this weekend, but Dylan Young is here and he rounds out the top 10 in the championship. A number of these drivers doing this to keep themselves race fresh, ready for the season, whether in the case of people like Joey Mawson, they're going to go do Formula 3, or Dan Ticktum, for example, who joins the championship this weekend. He is going to head for the Formula Renault Euro Cup now that he's part of the Red Bull Junior programme. So you've got a number of drivers with a point to prove, but you've got other people who are here very much thinking about a championship and they want to win that, so they don't particularly want any spoilers in the pack. Also, you've got 2 drivers as guests in so-called development cars, former champion Toby Sowry, another of them being Narain Karthikeyan, and their car's slightly different in terms of spec, but the intention is that they can get extra mileage and develop the future MRF Challenge car. Wherever they qualify tomorrow, they will start from the pit lane, so it doesn't really affect the races too much, but in terms of lap times, they were looking very good both early on in the day. Narain Karthikeyan's time of 1:31.085 was the best of anybody in free practice 1, but ultimately the best time done by a current spec car was Harry Newey, 1:31.799. 28 there is Pavan Ravishankar. He had a couple of spins in the earlier session, but Ravishankar hopefully will have got that out of his system. Whether we see all these dramas, and we've had them across every category today in the races, or whether they all get them out of their system today remains to be seen. But on the evidence of what we've had today, it should be pretty spectacular. Joey Mawson was a bit wayward on occasions in the earlier session. Behind him as he crests the rise is Felipe Drugovich. And Joey Mawson works his way up through the final corner. Very, very wide. He's on the grass. He's back on the tarmac. And that will do the tyres no good. You get 5 sets for the weekend. You've got to manage them as best you can to try and keep a fresh set for the final race. A little bit like Harry Newey did last time out in Delhi. So he was on the best rubber of anybody going into the last race of the weekend. And it paid out for him because he got a 4th race win of the year. Joey Mawson's not been the only driver taking to the weeds, because also getting a bit cavalier, Yuri Vips coming up through turn 2, and behind him, kicking up the dirt as well, was Yoshiaki Katayama, and then behind Katayama in the red car, number 1, Narain Karthikeyan. The MRF mechanics on the pit wall with the pit boards. Some locals, some from championships around the globe. There's the odd British touring car face in the pit lane. The technical delegate for the series is Formula 3 team owner Boyo Hyatt. Big wobble from number 99 there, which is Ralph Aaron, the Estonian. Marco Asma, former British F3 champion, here as his driver coach. And Ralph Aaron, a winner in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship this year, getting sideways at turn 2 and off the road. And that is midway around the lap by the look of it. Manuel Maldonado, the cousin of Pastor Maldonado. He's in kind of the right direction. But the problem now is making sure that he's got the engine fired up, which he has, and then rejoining. He doesn't need to reverse, thankfully. He can just turn left, and the Venezuelan rejoins the session. So the race director keeps everything moving. Doesn't need to worry about stopping the session. And Maldonado then rejoining just up the road ahead of Chia Wing Hung. And it's good to see him in the session, because Wing Hung had a big off early in FP1. The team not all that confident that they get the car repaired, as you look at Maldonado's spin in replay. No real harm done. Ends up in, as I said at the time, sort of the right direction. Just turns left and rejoins. But Chia Wing Hung had quite a spectacular moment early on. So it's good that number 8, there it is a runner once more. He did a lot of damage to the left, both front and rear corners. Mick Schumacher turning his way through turn 1. Schumacher was in real terms, second fastest in the earlier session behind Harry Newey. And the German driver, who started off as Mick Betch in karting to try and start his career away from the spotlight of having a famous name, and then became Mick Jr., only really raced as Mick Schumacher when he moved into cars, when he came into F4 in 2015, driving for Fritz van Amersfoort's team. He drove for the Prema Power team last year. This year it'll be Formula 3 for Mick Schumacher, who's a little bit sideways through the S's there. And once again, he finds himself up against Joey Mawson, his former teammate indeed at VAR, and very much his arch rival of F4 over the last couple of years. And Joey Mawson, having won the 2016 ADAC F4 title, looking to try to add the MRF challenge to his CV as well, the Australian driver. But Mick Schumacher is the one you're looking at. He's worked his way up past Chia Wing Hong. We've got 16 cars in the MRF challenge this weekend, including Red Bull Junior team drivers for this year, not just Dan Tickton, but also Neil Verhagen, the American driver, who will go to the MP Motorsport team for Formula Renault Euro Cup. Dan Tickton for Argon International, so Red Bull placing its junior drivers in different teams, understandably. Mick Schumacher, not as wide as Joey Mawson went, comes out of the final turn and over the timing line now. Narain Karthikeyan is the fastest, ignore that. Harry Newey then is the best of those in the current spec cars, 132.476 from Mick Schumacher. Toby Sowery, former champion, is fourth, but again, he's in one of the newer cars, so discount him from the pack, really. Then you've got Joey Mawson and Felipe Drugovich, number 11, with Ralph Aaron next in the queue, and that is Pavan Ravishankar off the road, not for the first time today. Gets it back on track. But that was at turn 1, so he's wasted a lot of time for this next lap. So Pavan Ravishankar is 11th fastest, and there I suspect he will remain for a while. Came from karting before moving into the AFR series for 2016, Ravishankar, Formula Renault style cars. Number 4 there, Harry Newey, so the man that lies second in the championship, coming here as a potential champion. Dad is due to be here this weekend as well, Adrian, as Harry Newey drops a wheel over the curb, and that oh so nearly spits him into disaster. He managed to catch that very, very well. Harry Newey then presses on. The best lap time that he's done is a 132.476. Sorry, it's a 132.399 last time through, just updated, but this was how he got perilously close to disaster. He was sideways anyway, then he hooked a wheel over the curb, managed to pull it back, but it was a big, big moment for him. The dust is still settling, I think. So Harry Newey presses on. You've now got the two guests, Narain Karthikeyan and Toby Sowery, at the top of the time, so discount them really. It's Newey, Schumacher, Mawson, Vitz, Drugovich, Aaron, Tickton, Young, Katayama, Ravishankar, the top 10 of those in the current generation car. And Harry Newey, spectacular to watch, wide there. And just as everybody else has found in other sessions, as people start having moments, they bring all sorts of grot back onto the circuit, which catches you out, so you go off, you get back on, you bring all sorts of grot with you, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And it could well be that the better times are done early on. The previous session on track for the 1600cc single-seaters looked to have illustrated the point until the very, very last lap, when we had a change for the top time by 24 thousandths of a second. But it is so dirty out there now. Through the gravel, littering the pit straight, goes Harry Newey. And he turns his way out of turn 1 up towards the next right of turn 2. There's an awful lot of effort being put into driving these cars, and Harry Newey in particular, well worth watching, but it's paying out for him because he is the fastest thus far. Ignore Karthikeyan and Sowery, they don't score points, they'll start from the pit lane anyway. And as there, Harry Newey comes back into view up through turn 3 and 4, heading now towards the next sequence of S's. He's got the road to himself, but there's pretty much one line. So many different parts of the circuit you'll find gravel and a bit of grass littering the road. So if you do make a mistake, if you do go wide, you're going to catch that and be in even more drama than you expected. So Karthikeyan with a 131.381 in one of the two development cars. So really there's going to be this sort of inter-Nissan battle between him and Toby Sowery in the same spec of car. And then everybody else headed at the moment by Harry Newey, who works his way out of the left-right sequence, tries to avoid the gravel that's been dragged onto the road. It's a good smooth lap though this. There's a lot of effort being put in, but he's not looking ragged as he was early on. So he comes up towards the timing line now, and Harry Newey last time did a 33.6. He lost over a second with his indiscretion, but that's a 31.8, and that puts him second overall as he goes through all the litter on the pit straight. It's going to take an awful lot of sweeping tonight, this circuit, and then I suspect it'll end up just the same tomorrow when we have a very busy day of qualifying and racing. There is Naren Karthikeyan heading down the pit lane. And off the road has gone Dylan Young, number 3, so the Australian, who wants to go into GP3 for this year, finds his way back onto the circuit. And as he does so, he is 11th in the standings. We've had very nearly 12 minutes of this session. There's Joey Mawson, who is 3rd fastest. A little bit oversteer as he goes through the S's. Dylan Young has just pitted, incidentally, after his moment of a lap ago. Behind Mawson on road is Felipe Drugovich, who's been another driver in the German F4 Championship this last season gone. Drugovich drove for the Neuhauser team, got only one podium, 12th overall, but he did have a win in this championship in Dubai. The way that the 4 races work, you have 1 qualifying session. Fastest lap time gives you 2 points for the championship, and your best time is the grid for race 1. Race 2's grid is the race 1 result with a top 6 reversal. That was Mawson going wide, and this is the replay of Katayama getting it spectacularly wrong at the S's. And just as he finishes that, to make the point that the race 3 grid is based on your 2nd best qualifying time, race 4, like race 2, is the previous race result with a top 6 reverse. Now, Mawson, when we last saw, was going wide. There he is. He survives it, but goes quickest, 1:31.226. So amazing that despite kicking up the dirt as he went out of shot before the replay, Joey Mawson is 75 thousandths quicker than Mick Schumacher, who has just gone 2nd. So Mawson here knows how to win a championship, and way off behind him was that Drugovich getting it all wrong. There's a great cloud of dust. There should be a red car in it somewhere. There it is. Is that Drugovich? Yes, it is. Number 11, Felipe Drugovich, then off the road. And Joey Mawson, oh so close to disaster there, because the track is getting more and more slippery. There's more and more litter, for want of a better term, being brought onto the road. It's very dusty, very slippery. And so finding a good lap time error-free is not the work of a moment. There in the pits is Pavan Ravishankar. He's had a couple of spins that we've seen. So now it's time to go and have a word with the team and see what can be done. Joey Mawson then, 1:31.226. Not as good as Karthikeyan's time from the earlier session, but it is better by about half a second than Harry Newey from free practice 1. Joey Mawson flips the car through the next S. He'll work his way in a moment up around the back of the paddock and then over the brow down towards the final turn. Stays out for another lap. And again, you see how hard it is, lap by lap, to be confident at the grip level, because it only takes one other car to have a little off and bring stuff onto the circuit, and suddenly what you expect to be there has all changed. Mawson through, that was a little bit slower, only by 4/10, 1:31.618. Number 1 is Naren Karthikeyan, who heads up to the line. There is 32, which is Presley Martono, new to the championship this weekend, 83, also hard at work, recovering from his earlier spin, Manuel Maldonado. And way off the road is number 8, Chia Wing Hong. The Malaysian has just done a personal best, but is in the weeds. Is he going to be able to get going from there, or do we have a red flag looming? Let's see. No, he can just about move. How did he get there? Rides the curb, car breaks away. Simple as that. Too much curb, too much zealotry. And round he goes. Onto the grass, stands on everything to try and stop it, and stalls the engine. So the race director will have a look and make sure that he's happy. The car has turned around and it has got going, and it's now on the tarmac. So Chia Wing Hong rejoins. He's back in business then as he accelerates away. Mechanics and the JA Motorsport Championship Management looking on in the pit lane. But Wing Hong's team has had a rather busy time trying to repair the car. The last thing it needs is a late night with yet more repairs to be effected. So Chia Wing Hong, quick carter, carries on. That's Harry Newey being oh so spectacular as he rides the curve at turn 1. That means that he's a little bit compromised for turn 2. And turn 3 catches out people if you're not careful. It's where he had his big slide earlier. That's okay this time though. So Harry Newey threads his way through the gravel that's now on the track. Goes through turn 4. This is the order. Mawson from Schumacher, from Newey, from Drugovic, Ticktum, Dan Ticktum 5th, first time out. And then Juri Vips, the Estonian driver, 6th. So we've gone past the halfway point. Dan Ticktum has just pitted, so going much stronger in this second session than in the first. That's Joey Mawson, who is no longer the overall fastest because Narain Karthikeyan has gone just a fraction quicker, but Joey Mawson is still the best of those in the current spec car, ahead of Mick Schumacher and then Harry Newey, who is here. And every time you see Harry Newey, he looks quick. He's got faster and faster and smoother as a driver. He makes fewer errors than he did perhaps when he was in the F4 category in 2015. His 2016 Formula 3 season was a pretty steep learning curve, but he did get his hat on with it and got better and better and better as the year went on. And as he comes over the timing line, that lap is another personal best, 1:31.401, keeps him behind Mawson and Schumacher, but the fact that he can find a bit of time is encouraging. 99 in the pits is the car of Ralph Aron, the Estonian. So, he had a second place in the last race in Delhi. He was a winner though in Bahrain. Missed the Dubai weekend, so he's not really a factor in the championship, even though Ralph Aron, former Italian F4 champion, is a very quick driver. Katayama circulating again after his spin, and he's 10th fastest. Out of the pit lane comes Juri Vips, into the pits with a bit of damage, I notice, has just come 32 Presley Martono. So it's been another hectic session for one or two of the drivers in this. There is 44 Juri Vips. This won't really count this lap because he's come out of the pit road. Number 8, Chia Wing Hong, back on track after his indiscretion. He's the slowest at the moment, and Katayama looking for a way past him. And nothing doing for the moment. Katayama oh so close to just rubbing across the front of Juri Vips there. Vips looking to try and get himself clear track space, and he's doing that by attacking and overtaking rather than by dropping back. So Vips on a mission. Number 44 is Juri Vips, who has been one of those drivers with what you might call a there or thereabouts season. The best that he's had, second in Bahrain. He's had thirds and fourths and fifths and sixths. He's also had, I'm afraid, a few retirements and a non-start, so it's been a bit of a yo-yo season. But pace is there. Juri Vips, another quick driver worth keeping an eye to. Another gun from Estonia, working his way up now through the last turn over the timing line and onto a flying lap he has just gone. Harry Newey then, second overall now, because he's quicker than Mawson and Schumacher. He's on a 1:31.112. Vips a little bit crossed up at turn 2 though as he comes into view. Dust kicked up in the background. So waiting for the next significant improvement in terms of lap time here. Who's it going to be from? Pavan Ravishankar goes through. Big slide from Juri Vips, but again it illustrates the commitment being put in here. He's throwing everything at this. Absolutely no question. So Juri Vips presses on. Works his way into the last 9 minutes of the session. Currently 8th fastest. Can he improve from there? There's Dan Ticktum as the next target. The gap between Ticktum and Vips is about 1/10 of a second. Can that be found? Let's see. Vips rather twitchy driving style, evincing itself as he flicks his way then up through turn 10, heading to the completion of the lap over the brow. We've seen 1 or 2 people run by there, but you don't want to do it because there's not too much runoff, and the same is true coming out of the last corner. Vip's car still not looking quite as smooth as others, but that might be in part down to how dirty the circuit is. Is the lap an improvement? It is. It puts him 6th, so it goes from 8th to 6th. Good effort. So Vip's over the line. And behind there's a big lock-up from what could have been Chia Wing Hong's car. Hard to see in the background, but Yuri Vips is the one to watch now as he presses on. Dan Ticktum, even though he's just lost a place, has done a better lap time. So he's up to 7th fastest now, Dan Ticktum, with a 1:32.031. And off the road, 83, Manuel Maldonado. Perhaps that was the one that locked up because it's at turn 2. So Manuel Maldonado, for the 2nd time in the session, is off the road. He does rejoin eventually, but a troubled time he's had in all of this. Vips off the road as well, so more and more people in trouble, and as he tries to rejoin, he has another spin. Yuri Vips wasting even more time. He's way off the road, and another spin doesn't help his case at all. So big drama for Yuri Vips. You can see how far off the track he's gone, but he's away and running now. And finally, he's on the tarmac, flicks it left and right to try and get rid of some of the gravel off the tyres, but he was way off the road. I think he just carried too much speed into the corner, couldn't slow it down in time, skated off wide, and then in his haste to get back onto the circuit, just boots it, loops it, and loses it. '78, which is Yoshiaki Katayama, continues 12th fastest. Schumacher, meantime, is 2nd fastest, and therefore the fastest behind Nuri Karthikeyan of those in the current spec cars. So what have we got? 6 minutes. Schumacher accelerating his way towards the end of the lap. Number 3 is Dylan Young, who was off the road early on in the session. He's 10th quickest now. Behind him is 51, which is Toby Sauer. I think that's the first time we've seen Toby all day, carrying Indian colours on the car. But the former MRF Challenge champion and quick driver race winner last year in the BRDC's Formula 3 category for the non-FIA spec cars, the MSV cars, he is 5th overall. Toby Sauer, another underrated British driver, but has found a happy home for himself in this part of the world. And as a former champion, his experience with the car standing in good stead for a bit of winter work, being paid to come out here and help do some development on the future car. 25 though, Mick Schumacher is here to try and win a championship. He is at the moment 3rd behind Mawson, the leader, Newey 2nd in the points, but it could all be very different after 2 races tomorrow. Big pressure weekend for the drivers. So Schumacher wriggling his way through the infield. Rides the curb. Not too wide though, coming out of the penultimate right-hander. Crests the brow. He's got 4.5 minutes, so there is still the chance of an improvement before the very end here. Ravashankar is off again. What's that, 3 in this session? So very grubby tyres now that Pavan Ravichandra has picked up. He does get going once more with 4 more minutes on the clock, but I suspect we've seen the last possible improvement out of him, because there's not really enough time to clean the tyres, get his head together and go for another time, I wouldn't have thought. Meantime, Schumacher presses on, and Joey Mawson, fourth fastest. That is Neil Verhagen in the pit lane. Now he's 10th. Verhagen new this weekend, the American driver, another very highly regarded driver whose birth date is tomorrow. In fact, he's going to be 16 tomorrow. So quite some party if he has a good result, I'm sure. And he too is part of Red Bull's junior programme. He will go into Formula Renault Euro Cup with the MP Motorsport squad. So it's a chance for him to get used to this type of single-seater. Joey Mawson losing it, coming out of the last corner. Round he goes and just gets his nose into the barrier. So the championship leader, with 3 minutes of the session to go, is off the road. Can he get going from there? Is it going to be a stoppage? Let's see. Joey Mawson does find reverse gear, does get himself out of the tyres. Now he's got to find first and rejoin. Did he do much damage? Well, the tyres aren't anymore at their best. Don't think he's damaged the front of the car, but he brings yet more gunge onto the circuit. Look, more grass and gravel flutters down the pit straight. He's got Ralph Aaron behind him, and he's offline now as he tries to keep out of everybody's way, but Joey Mawson has a lose coming out of the last corner. This is the replay of it. Have a look to the left-hand side of the pictures. He's sideways into view, round he goes, and just nudges up against the tyres, but nothing too serious. Could have been a whole lot worse. And Joey Mawson will have a think about that, I'm sure. So it could have been worse. Better it happens now, you could argue, than in qualifying or in the races. It's out of his system, hopefully. But let's hope this isn't the pressure starting to tell on the championship leader. He knows how to cope with it, which is how he impressively won the ADAC F4 title this year, this season gone, 2016. But Joey Mawson straight away presses on. We are into the last 2 minutes as Toby Sowery locks up there in the white, green and orange car. He has got Dylan Young behind him on track, so the Brit versus the Australian for track position. There you've got Harry Newey going through the shot. If you take Narain Karthikeyan out of the mix because he's the fastest, it's Schumacher, Newey, Mawson, Vips, Tipton, Drugovic, Young, Verhagen, Aaron, Martono. The order. Is Joey Mawson going to pit? He might as well, to be honest, because I wouldn't have thought he's going to squeeze much more out of this session. Dan Tipton has improved, 6th fastest, and yes, Mawson calls it a session, in he comes. So that's the job done for today. Harry Newey pressing on though, and he's now got less than a lap time left in the session, so he'll take the flag this time around. We just had Neil Verhagen have a spin, I think I'm right in saying, coming out of the last corner, and then have to effectively do a standing start. He'd come to rest on the track coming out of the last corner. He got himself going, thankfully, but that could have been a bit hairy for anybody behind him. The flag is 25 seconds away. Harry Newey still pushing on. Now, is there another improvement to be found before the very end here? Let's see, as Harry Newey tries to wring everything he can out of this. The checkered flag is out, so the clock hits 0, and Mick Schumacher, the first man to take it, does not improve. Harry Newey for the flag. There's Toby Sowery just up the road ahead of him. He's got Dylan Young behind him. They come through, looking to see if there's an improvement. There is from Sowery, who is 6th overall, 131.599. What about Harry Newey? No, doesn't improve. Not for the want of trying, though. Spectacular session by the young Brit. The flag waves as who is going to be next through. 1 or 2 already in the pit lane, in fairness. So that's Ralph Aaron, who ended the session a bit early, and he is 11th. I think he'd be a bit frustrated with that, really, because he's quick, but just not quite hooked up for him this weekend. In this little battle pack, there is Chia Wing Hong trying to stave off the attentions of Felipe Drugovic, and then there's Dan Tipton behind. Trouble is, if you end up running in a clump like that, you're going to be delayed. Up the inside goes, more in hope than in anticipation. Drugovic, I'm not sure that's really going to help him terribly as he comes up towards the timing line. He does not improve. What about Dan Tipton? Doesn't improve. Dylan Young did improve, incidentally, a bit earlier to go 9th, and Yoshiaki Katayama also an improver, 12 fastest. So I think we've had those that we're going to have for the, yes, checkered flag. There is Mick Schumacher down the pit lane, so everybody has now taken the flag to round out free practice 2 for the MRF 2000 cars and the MRF Challenge, and to complete track activity for day 1 here in Chennai this weekend. So it is Naren Karthikeyan fastest on track, but the best of those in the current spec car, Mick Schumacher. There is Harry Newey making his way down the pit road. So the British driver keeping his hand in, like many over the winter, by taking part in this MRF Challenge. Bahrain and Dubai, both circuits that have had Formula 1 and international sports car and GT races. Of course, the BIC in Delhi, former home of the Indian Grand Prix, and this circuit at Irangota-Kotai, very much part of Indian motorsport fabric. So in his Decra colours, and the Prema Power Team overalls, Mick Schumacher clambers out of the car. Maybe that we can hear from the young German driver at the end of a session in which he was about 3/10 up on Harry Newey and Joey Mawson behind. So as P1, it says on the pit board for Mick Schumacher, gets out of the car, and a quick word with his engineers. Once the crash helmet is off, hopefully we can hear from the man of the moment, Mick Schumacher, ending up fastest in this second free practice session of the day. Despite plenty of people being off the road, nobody coming back with any real damage that time, so that's a bit more reassuring for the engineers overnight. They haven't got too much to do. So the car's being pulled backwards into their pit boxes. Dan Tipton clambering out of the pale blue car, returning to racing after an enforced ban for much of 2016, but putting that well and truly behind him now with some good efforts in the FIA Formula 3 Championship and the F3 Autumn Trophy. But Mick Schumacher, fastest in that second session, is with Louise Beckett.
Do we actually go there? If you want to go there. So Mick Schumacher, fastest in that session. You've had experience here, so what can you do tomorrow when it really matters in qualifying?
Honestly, I feel quite comfortable and confident also that it's going to work pretty well. We have a good car, and yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
You're looking happy and relaxed.
Yeah, I am. I think, let's say, I don't feel the pressure. I will do my best. So what happens, what happens. If it happens, good. If not, we look forward to the F3 European Championship, and I'm either way happy to be here.
Thank you.
So Mick Schumacher keeping his hand in, keeping himself race fit during the winter. And although Naren Karthikeyan did a time at 1 minute 30.067, that's the development car, the guest car. So Mick Schumacher, the real fastest, ahead of Harry Newey and Joey Mawson despite his spin. Yuri Vips, a good fourth. Take out Toby Sowry. Dan Tipton comes next. So it is Germany, Britain from Australia, Estonia and Britain in the top 5 at the end of free practice 2 for the MRF Challenge here in Chennai. So we know how it ended. How did it start? Let's have a look at some of the highlights of free practice 2 as the identical cars poured out on track, and straight away Presley Martono drew attention to himself, but not quite as much as Manuel Maldonado did with this spin coming through the third sector of the lap. Harry Newey, very spectacular from the get-go. Big sideways moment that he oh so nearly lost, but good car control kept him in the mix throughout the session. Ralph Aaron was another quick driver who didn't quite, in the end, deliver what we anticipated, whereas Yoshiaki Katayama had this big lose through the S's. Harry Newey a little bit twitchy, but he was pressing on and briefly got himself to the top of the times, whilst Chia Wing Hong's repaired car went grass cutting. Newey was one of the most spectacular session long. Another quick driver and another spectacular one was Yuri Vips, the Estonian, finding himself in strife after a pit stop. He joined in behind the traffic, behind Katayama, and eventually had to wriggle his way through. He had a look on the inside of the Japanese driver, dispensed with him, and then set off in pursuit of Hong. Then he ran out of road, went all across the grass, tried to sort himself out, and in his haste had a spin on the grass as well. But he wasn't the only one. Pavan Ravishankar was off the road more than once, this spin coming through turn 2, and Joey Mawson was another casualty, losing it coming out of the last corner. He nosed it into the tyre barrier, but was able to get himself back into the session. And so, at the end of day 1 for the MRF Challenge, Mick Schumacher it is who tops the times in free practice 2. It's a crucial weekend this. There's a championship on the line come Sunday afternoon. But the next focus of attention is qualifying, and that will be tomorrow morning here in Chennai. You get 2 points for pole position. So, the early bird and all that on track tomorrow to see whether those 2 points are going to have much of an effect on the championship come the end of the weekend. It's qualifying in the morning and then 2 races for the MRF Challenge, 2 litres to look forward to tomorrow, 2 more of them on Sunday. Pressure's on, championship on the line, racing and qualifying to come tomorrow. We'll see you then. From Louise Beckett and David Addison for now. Bye-bye.